many of my adult patients, the perpetrators of their trauma either are not interested or they're not even there in their life anymore through death or whatever reason. And what I've seen is that it does not matter. You don't need the person who hurt you to apologize and make amends. This is because after a certain point in time, it really is about what you have internalized. So that traumatic way of interacting with you is what we internalize. But the moment you become aware of that and you change that narrative, you change that internalized relationship to one of respect and value and wholeness, you are on the path to healing. And it does not take long. It does take practice though.
If you haven't done so already, go ahead and click that subscribe button down below. It's a little red button. You punch that, and it's going to notify you every time we put out a new episode that can help you improve your bone health. And then also, if you haven't done so already, head over to bonecoach.com, sign up for the free 7-day Osteoporosis Kickstart. That's going to walk you through everything you need to be doing right now to get on the path to improvement and stronger bones. After you do those two things, go ahead and press play on this episode, and I'll see you inside. Welcome to this episode of the BoneCoach Show. Joining us today to explore a holistic approach to mental health and why this matters on your osteoporosis journey is Dr. Aruna Tummala. Dr. Aruna Tummala is a board-certified adult, geriatric, and holistic psychiatrist and founder of Trinergy Health in Wisconsin, USA. Dr. Aruna offers evidence-based, root-cause, holistic mental and whole-body wellness solutions so you can achieve health, harmony, and vitality naturally. Considered a pioneer in holistic psychiatry, Dr. Aruna developed her signature program, Psychiatry 2.0, a unique root cause method to treat mental health problems by healing the body first to then heal the mind. Psychiatry 2.0 combines ancient wisdom of Ayurveda with functional medicine to find and address the root causes of a patient's physiological symptoms. This program can be offered in person or online as mental health coaching, allowing Dr. Aruna to serve clients all over the US and the world. She offers a broad scope of intervention, including diet, exercise, meditation, yoga, nutritional supplements, Ayurvedic herbs, HBOT, psychotherapy, and so on, with so many methods and patients that she's helped with this process. And she's incredibly passionate about empowering you through education and self-awareness so you can achieve your best, healthiest, and most vibrant, inspired self. So Dr. Aruna, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. It is my absolute pleasure to be here today.
Well, let's get into this. And for everybody listening, I want to make sure you understand why this is an important topic for those who have osteopenia, osteoporosis, and are concerned about bone loss, because along with bone loss, postmenopausal women specifically also face the risk of mood disorders, which are sadly treated with antidepressants. And
yes,
got about 1 in 4 postmenopausal women is taking an antidepressant, not knowing that those antidepressants, especially SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, are increasing that risk of bone loss, osteopenia, osteoporosis, and the risk of fracture. And then we've got depression itself that's also an independent risk factor, but taking those antidepressants increases that risk too.
yes,
So
yes.
that is
Kevin,
why.
Right there, you proved yourself to be smarter than 99% of psychiatrists. Because sadly, the way modern psychiatry is practiced, and I put myself in that 99% category. I mean, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have understood all of the ramifications of using these medications. What I was taught in my psychiatric residency and fellowship in geriatric psychiatry was to tell people that it's a chemical imbalance, and then you give these medications. And yes, the medications can make you gain weight, or they can mess up your gut health or your bone health, but there is nothing to do, nothing else to offer. So yeah, tough luck. This is all you have to do. But yeah, I mean, especially from your lens, antidepressants are harmful for bone health as well. And then 1 in 4 women are taking an antidepressant, postmenopausal women are taking an antidepressant. So, but when I switched over to holistic medicine, holistic psychiatry, that's when I realized all of these mistruths that are paraded as truths. Number one, there is no chemical imbalance, right? There is no chemical imbalance. I don't know. I mean, the latest study that pointed it out again was by Dr. Moncrief and her colleagues from UK. And she published 70 years of meta-analysis just last year, summer of 2022, that came out, that there is no evidence that serotonin imbalance causes depression, no evidence that there is any serotonin imbalance. So then that begs the question, why are women, men, children, why are we getting depressed? And that question is actually what my work has been. Why do we fall ill, especially in the mind? But yeah, thank you for bringing attention to this very, very, very important side effect of these medications. Because when we talk about bone loss, guess what? We're increasing their risk of falls. And we know that when a person in their 60s, even in their 60s and older, when they have a fall, that is a direct contributor to early mortality. So not only are we destroying quality of life by this kind of the mainstream practice, but we're also shortening life duration. That's, I mean, I maybe it may be shocking and jarring to hear my words, but I do want people to wake up. So that's
well, let's talk about holistic psychiatry, because this may be the first time somebody's heard holistic put in front of psychiatry. So let's break that down. What is holistic psychiatry, and how did you become a holistic psychiatrist?
So I think, like most of us in the holistic field, it started off with my own health issues and life experiences. I mean, there were so many signs that the universe was giving me, and I kept ignoring them until I could not ignore anymore. The first sign was really, I did my psychiatry residency in India. This was from 1999 to 2002. And around that time, a very popular movie in one of the South Indian languages was released. It's called Annamaya. It was about a very important saint in our culture who was born in the 15th century. And he's credited with having given rise to the South Indian Carnatic music tradition. He has composed 24,000 songs in his lifetime. He lived to be 93 or 94, and he composed 24,000 songs. In comparison, Elvis has composed about 52 songs. Yeah, so this man is a genius. But when you look at his spiritual experience, as a young psychiatry resident, I watched this movie. They show him having this spiritual epiphany. And in my mind, as a young psychiatry resident, oh, this is psychosis. He's having a psychotic break, is what I thought from my lens. But then I immediately thought, okay, if we were to give him the medications and everything, would he really still be a genius like he was? Because even then in my residency, I began to see that people were not getting better. But every time this recognition came up, I was really told in my training that there is nothing you can do. But then my own health issues happened. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. I was developing symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis, and I was struggling with polycystic ovarian syndrome, all of that. And then I think that was the wake-up call that I received. And as I began to explore holistic medicine and healed my body, I was like, wow, it was all about food as medicine is what I healed myself. And then I was like, oh, if I can put these, so-called incurable autoimmune conditions into remission, if I can cure myself, why not mental health? And that when I started asking that question, literally the floodgates opened. I came across Functional Medicine Institute for Functional Medicine, Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine, and I dove right in. This was 10 years ago. But the challenge for me was that there was no concept of holistic psychiatry. I mean, they were teaching us how to think holistically about the whole mind-body thing. And the functional medicine doctors were talking about how when they healed the gut, the depression went away, or when they healed mitochondrial damage, fibromyalgia and anxiety went away. So I began to see that it was more about the body and the relationship that the person had with themselves. So then, so I really had to come up with, whatever I was learning, I had to kind of apply it for mental health. And in the beginning, even my own thinking was, oh, this can work for depression and anxiety, but it can't work for bipolar and schizophrenia. No, I've been proven wrong on all of these things. And basically what I've realized is that there are only 3 root causes. It's wrong diet. It's a diet that is not in alignment with who you are. It is about the trauma that you have experienced throughout life. And the more severe and earlier the trauma, the more serious the illness. So if you've had a great childhood, great support, but then you have a major traumatic event in your adulthood, you'll develop depression and anxiety. But if you've had early life trauma, then you're going to have chronic PTSD, personality issues, maybe even schizophrenia and bipolar. And the third one was toxins. So, I mean, in my book that's going to be published soon, I'm calling it Psychiatry 2.0. The 3 root causes are diet, trauma, toxins. It's DTT. That's it. We address this. No matter the diagnostic label that a person comes in, they get better. It really is about addressing these 3 root causes. And how do these root causes impact the body? Number one, they cause leaky gut, which is gut inflammation. And then from there, they can affect all different organ systems. Immune system invariably gets affected. Especially in women, it's also the hormonal system, the OAT axis, which is the ovarian, adrenal, thyroid. This is the other, for women throughout the reproductive phase, as well as in the postmenopausal, we have to evaluate how their ovaries are functioning, thyroid and adrenals are functioning. And so it really is when you address these 3 things, because these 3 things cause leaky gut, inflammation, and organ degeneration.
Hey, it's Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. I want to take one more minute to talk about if you are somebody who was newly diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis, and you're at a point where you're stressed, you're worried, you're overwhelmed, you have no idea where to start or how to get started getting confident in your plan. I want to tell you about the Stronger Bone Solution Program. Over 5,000 people have come through this Stronger Bone Solution Program, and it walks you through the exact process you need to fill in the missing pieces, uncover critical things in your plan that you may not be aware of, and help you make modifications, adjustments, and tweaks to get you to the place where you're building stronger bones. I want you to get confident in your plan so that you can focus on living life and enjoying the life that you deserve with the people you love most. So if that's where you want to be, head over to bonecoach.com/apply and apply for our Stronger Bone Solution Program right now. I'm Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. I want to see you inside this program. I want to help you get on the path to improvement and stronger bones. Hope to see you inside very soon. Let's get back to the episode. Yeah, well, maybe we can go down each of those paths and just share a little bit for each of those things that are maybe things that people not really be aware of right now, or things that maybe they think they're doing correctly in these areas, but they might not actually be doing correctly. So maybe we can uncover some of things with diet, with trauma, with toxins.
Yes. So diet, and that my understanding about why diet is important really comes from Ayurvedic medicine. So in Ayurvedic medicine, everything is personalized and individualized to our doshas, which is the body, the innate constitution that we are born with. And we have 3 doshas. It's Vata, which is the air element, Pitta, which is the fire element, and Kapha, which is the earth element. All of us have all 3, but the relative composition of that is different. Now, I can tell you, the little I know you, you're primarily Pitta, maybe a little bit of Vata in there. So I mean, it's energy. You're really picking up on the energy signature that the person has, and so Vata people tend to have weak digestion. Pitta people, intermediate digestive system, digestive abilities, and Kapha have robust digestion. So when I talk about the wrong diet, so a very easy example is that of salads. Here in the Western world, we think of salads as being healthy for everyone. Raw food is, there are so many raw food proponents. But from an Ayurvedic lens, no. If you are somebody with a Vata constitution, and especially if you're Vata imbalanced, then your digestive abilities are so weak, you will not be able to digest anything but well-cooked food. So then the dry salad that you're having will actually cause more energetic imbalance and will cause more problems. And when I started to understand this, I remember there was a young woman when I was in my previous life, I was working for a hospital. She had been admitted, and sometimes I joke, my crystal ball is very clear. I can see things. It doesn't happen all the time, sadly. But this young woman, she had been admitted for alcohol addiction and anxiety and all of that. And she was so Vata imbalanced. And I could see that she had kidney stones. I mean, don't ask me how I got that. I just picked up, oh my God, she's so dry, because Vata increases the dryness. And we do see stones, and kidney stones and gallstones can be a problem. And she was like, how did you figure that? Yes, I mean, just a few months ago, I was diagnosed with, I had kidney stones, and it was a very painful experience. And then, of course, I went over, and she was eating salads almost 3 times a day. So then I had to kind of explain to her, so it was a good outcome. So that's one example of how diet can be, even though it could be healthy for somebody else. So Kapha people and Pitta people can digest even raw food. So that's okay for them. But again, it ultimately comes down to, we say you are what you eat. Whereas from an Ayurvedic lens, we say you are what you eat and are able to digest. So that digestibility is very important, because if you digest, you extract the nutrients and you eliminate the waste. If you're not digesting, that undigested food will impact your microbiome. It'll destroy your gut lining and create that local gut inflammation, which can then spread everywhere else.
I want to bring this specific example that you brought up about diet. I want to bring this to life with an actual example. So let's say somebody is listening to this and they're like, gosh, I eat arugula. I love arugula specifically. I talk about it before and I love it. I think it's a great green to include. But let's say somebody's including it in a raw salad and that salad is not working for them, right? Maybe if we saute it, warm it up a little bit, that may actually work better for your digestive system. So if it doesn't work one way, consider trying it another way. And that may be one way to still get the nutrients, just a little bit easier to digest.
Yeah, and even make it like a smoothie. Make it like a smoothie. So because what we are really looking to is make the food easily digestible for your weak digestive system. And in my practice, when we identify that somebody's coming with a vata imbalance, we give, I can share this. If you're having, when you feel bloated or when you feel heavy, when you feel that your digestion is sluggish, a big indicator of that is that you're not getting hungry at regular intervals. Like we should get hungry at regular intervals. And if that is not happening, that itself is an indicator of a weakened digestive system. And a simple way that anybody can do it is actually making a tea with cumin, coriander, and fennel. Take equal quantities, let's say half a teaspoon of cumin, coriander, and fennel seeds, boil it in a quart of water for 5 to 10 minutes, steep it, and then drink it with a meal. And this can be a really good aid to stimulate your digestive juices and helps with digestion. Many people come in with burping after they eat. That is another sign of low stomach acid. And when that happens, again, we have herbs, medicines, and everything that we do use. But your listeners who are just kind of getting started on this, or just chew half a teaspoon of fennel seeds, do that consistently with every meal. And of course, it takes a little bit longer than, getting at it with herbal medicines that work very fast. But you will see that doing that and becoming more mindful about what you're eating. Like if salads don't agree with you, then switch over to a smoothie or just saute some of these greens and eat them that way. And you will see that the burping will reduce, your bloating will reduce, the fullness, that heaviness in your stomach will reduce. All of these indicates that you're digesting well. And your energy will improve just with that.
I love that. So actionable. Thank you so much for sharing an actionable example there for diet. Now let's talk about the next piece, the next root cause that you've kind of found which is trauma. Can we maybe explore that a little bit?
Absolutely. And this one too, like in my own evolution, like I was introduced to Ayurveda in 2013 and I read all these books. It did not strike me what I was reading until I came across the ACE study again in 2018. And I did that because I was invited to be a keynote speaker for a trauma conference. And so I read Bessel van der Kolk's book, and then I read the ACE study. And I was like, wow, East and West, they're talking about the same thing. So essentially what happens when we experience early life trauma is that the way I describe it is that it actually pokes holes in our psyche, in our mind, in our soul, and it pokes holes in our gut. But before I had this epiphany and brought these two things together, clinically, I was noticing that if I diagnosed somebody with chronic PTSD, they had a higher risk of autoimmune disease. And from a functional medicine lens, I already knew that autoimmune disease indicates leaky gut, which is holes in the gut. But then when I put these two very different schools of thought together, and what I saw was that when we experience early life trauma, and this can be, it doesn't have to be physical, sexual, emotional abuse, but even that so-called small t trauma where a child is not allowed to be authentic. And I'm a parent myself, and I know you are too. This is not to make anyone go, oh, am I being that abusive, traumatic parent? It's not about that. This is really about education. Going down this path helped me evolve as a better parent. I think I think so. I mean, but we'll see what my kids have to say about it. They do agree. So there were things about my own personality, my own generational trauma that I was kind of taking it further with the next generation. But all of this insights helped me to, it changed my parenting approach as well. But really what we need to focus on, the first 2 years in a child's life is all about attachment, which is for the physical safety. Babies, they need to be held, they need to be fed. I mean, everything, we take care of their physical needs. But alongside, we're also taking care of their emotional needs. So if a baby cries and you pick them up, and also I'll say something very scandalous, sleep with your babies. That's the best thing you can do as a parent, because there are so many benefits to co-sleeping. It regulates the respiratory system, regulates their nervous system, a lot of benefits. But so we are taking care of their physical, emotional needs. But authenticity needs, they begin from the time the child becomes 2. We should not call it terrible 2. We should call it authentic 2. When a child is saying no, it's them exerting their individual will and personality. Whereas in our culture, we are taught, oh, this is the terrible 2s. I mean, no will start right now. That no is a very, very important word in their vocabulary. But sadly, because of the way we are taught to think about these things, we deprive our children of authenticity. I see that happen a lot. So then the child does not know how to become independent. The child does not know how to exert their ideas, their will, their speech, all of these things, their emotions. They don't know how to navigate that. So it's the process of suppressing all of these things begins at that age. So, and other thing I've seen is that when somebody is Miss Goody Two Shoes, I recognize that as loss of authenticity now. So, the child that is confirming, typically we see this with the firstborn more than the subsequent, because parents, we learn with one child, we learn and then we adapt too. So that authenticity needs are very important. So when that authenticity is not allowed to flourish, that itself is traumatic. And that's what gives rise to that low self-worth. How does it manifest? So when I ask my patients, okay, how is your self-worth? And they'll say, oh yeah, pretty good. And I have to tell them, no, I'm not talking about your confidence. How high can you jump? Or how much you hold, what esteem you hold yourself. It's not self-esteem either. The way you talk to yourself when you make a mistake, that indicates our level of self-worth. Like, are you able to say, yes, I made a mistake, I feel sorry about that? And, are you able to forgive yourself? And it's not a narcissistic, oh, I can do, it's not about that. It is about, are you able to sit with your own guilt, with the pain of having caused that harm or whatever mistake that you did, and able to accept it and forgive yourself? How long does it take? How much do you beat yourself up in that process? That indicates the level of self-worth that we truly hold for ourselves. It is the inherent value that we all have. Even a blade of grass has that value. That's why, we become stewards of our environment, because we know there is inherent value in everything that is around us. So do we. So that is the concept of self-worth. And trauma deprives us of that, or loss of authenticity deprives us of that. And so as adults, then we become emotionally dysregulated, which then impacts our relationships. And of course, for us women, we get diagnosed with bipolar or hysteria. It's not that. It is, again, it's not about men versus women. This lack of authenticity manifests in different ways in both men and women. Like in women, we get diagnosed with borderline personality, bipolar disorder, hysteria, or dramatic, these are all the labels. For men, actually, it is narcissism. Men whose authenticity needs are not met, get diagnosed with narcissism. And I feel so sorry when I see in podcasts, oh, narcissist, he's a narcissist, and, don't ever date a narcissist. I mean, yes, it's painful to be in that kind of relationship, no doubt about that. But if you look at the root causes, there is hope. If someone can work with this young man or, adult male and help them understand the roots of their narcissism, which is low self-worth, I think the world can be a much better place. So these are, so this is how, and trauma not only causes the holes in the psyche, but it does the same thing because you release a lot of cortisol from childhood, and too much cortisol causes leaky gut, which then sets the stage for inflammation and autoimmune diseases and everything.
How often do you see situations where, because like our audience, they may already have kids that have kids of their own, so they may have grandkids, and they may be an external observer to how things are playing out with their own children and their grandchildren. Is there any guidance for them that we can offer?
The number one thing is that it doesn't matter where you are in your age. I mean, some of my PTSD, chronic PTSD patients that have been able to reverse their illness are in their 50s and 60s. It really is about the day you start truly valuing yourself and loving yourself and really doing what you can do that expresses love for your own self, whether it is eating right or exercising, keeping the company that values you, all of these things. The day you start doing that, your mind-body system will respond. The day you commit to this, you are committing to a life of joy and worth and wholeness.
That's
So
beautiful.
age is, yeah, and even if you've had, so I mean, two things. One, when I'm working with adults who have had traumatic past, I do try to engage their family members, because there's nothing like, when the parent comes in, and I'm actually going to be working with a 30-year-old young woman whose mother was also my patient, so I know, but there's a trauma. So the mother-daughter duo is ready to do the work. And so if the mother comes in and is able to understand where some mistakes were made and truly empathizes and even offers an apology, the healing is going to be really there. But for many of my adult patients, the perpetrators of their trauma either are not interested, or they're not even there in their life anymore through death or whatever reason. And what I've seen is that it does not matter. You don't need the person who hurt you to apologize and make amends. This is because after a certain point in time, it really is about what you have internalized. So that traumatic way of interacting with you is what we internalize. But the moment you become aware of that, and you change that narrative, you change that internalized relationship to one of respect and value and wholeness, you are on the path to healing. And it does not take long. It does take practice, though. It does take practice. It does not take long.
Very empowering. Very empowering. And thank you for walking through that with trauma. And let's talk about the other major root cause that you touched on, which are toxins.
Yes. Yeah. So many wonderful examples here. Like, we are living in an extremely toxic world. There is no question about that. So with my own health issues, my Hashimoto's, PCOS, and rheumatoid arthritis, I was able to, again, there's no test, but my intuition tells me I grew up in India. And every summer through my teen years, once a week, the local government would send in this big vehicle with a loud horn. We were all supposed to go indoors, close our doors and windows, because they were spraying DDT. So this is in the 70s. It was banned in the US, and of course they shipped it over to India and other countries, right? So now, in India, we don't have sealed doors and windows. We would smell DDT even into the next day even. So, and that is when actually my PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, started around that time. And then in my 20s, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. So I've been able to kind of intuitively understand that toxin exposure was crucial for me to go down this path. Now with all of my patients, I do functional medicine testing with Mosaic Diagnostics. They were called GPL before. And especially the more serious illnesses like autism and schizophrenia and bipolar, I see all different kinds of toxins. Like glyphosate is a big one. Mold toxins, another big one. But one patient with bipolar disorder, she traveled a lot. And then, as part of her workup, we saw that she had high amounts of jet fuel in her system. And she had methylation polymorphisms, which impairs detoxification. So it was a double whammy for her. And definitely detoxing her from those things improved her psychosis, and she is completely well. She's an entrepreneur, doing really well and not on medications, and has been stable for over 4 years now. And in my clinic, we offer Ayurvedic massage as well, which is primarily a detoxification, lymphatic drainage, and energy balancing massage. And with patients with psychosis, when I have to tell my patients and their families, hey, the psychosis is going to go up for 24 hours after you do the massage, because we are mobilizing these toxins. They're going to leave their fat tissue, get into the lymphatic system. There will be an increase in these in symptoms, because it's kind of like the keto flu that we're all familiar with. But you see that the thing is, if you don't understand these connections and these coincidences, then you'll not be able to. So, so toxins impact the body. They cause inflammation. They directly mimic certain functions. So a lot of the toxins that we get exposed to are endocrine disruptors, because they mimic estrogen, progesterone activity, and even testosterone activity as well. And finally, by causing the immune system to become inflamed, they cause neuroinflammation as well. So these are all the different ways that toxins can impact us. And these toxins, most of them, majority, actually almost all of them, are lipid soluble. So they're lipophilic. So they can enter the brain cells, they can enter any cell, and detoxification with a fat medium is very, very important for that reason. And people put on weight because our body instinctively makes more fat deposits to hold on to these toxins and prevent them from interacting with our other cells. So again, post-bariatric surgery, we will see increase in depression, anxiety, psychosis even. And that is because if they do a liposuction, that's different. We don't see the same phenomenon, because you're removing the fat cells which are carrying the toxins. But in bariatric surgery, you're clamping the stomach and the intestine sometimes. So now your body is now forced to get its nutrition from the fat deposits. So they're breaking down the fat cells, the toxins get released, and we see all these syndromes happen. So the toxins are a big factor for that reason. And I've seen it being contributory to autism, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, all of these conditions. So
very interesting. Very interesting. And then I know you touched on diet, trauma, toxins, and you gave some great actionable suggestions there as well. Have you, even circling back to diet just briefly, are there specific dietary approaches? Obviously, we're all biochemically, genetically unique individuals. We're going to respond to different approaches differently, but are there specific approaches that you've seen that maybe have some great research behind them that show their effectiveness for different mental health conditions?
Ketogenic diet, like whether it is for dementia, and again, like I said, the way I began to approach mental illness is really looking at whether they're able to digest something or not. And what I've found is that people are better when they are slightly ketogenic and they avoid dairy and gluten. These are the three things that I emphasize on. And so clarified butter, I get everyone to consume clarified butter. And it's tasty, and it helps with brain healing, but it's also very good for the gut lining as well as for the microbiome. So when it's the same concept behind eating fiber. We get the butyrate from fiber, which is very beneficial for the good bacteria. Butter and ghee, which is clarified butter, also has a butyrate. So it's very beneficial for the gut bacteria. So there's tons of benefits to doing a slightly ketogenic diet. So don't be afraid of your farm fresh eggs and with the choline. Cholesterol, the yellow of eggs is rich in choline. Without choline, you're not going to make acetylcholine, which is necessary for memory. So choline is very important for attention, focus, concentration, and all of that. So, I think simplistically put, I would say, do not listen to American Dietary Association. Eat like your grandparents did. And grass-fed meats. Avoid conventional farming and animal husbandry. There's some really good regenerative farms that are coming up that are shipping meats all over. So I think White Oak Pastures is a farm in Georgia. I've been getting their ads a lot nowadays. And
Force of Nature is another good one that you can go to local stores and find. This is regenerative agriculture, regenerative farms that have great practices. They take care of the animals, and they live a great life. And the meat that comes from these animals is it's nutrient dense, it's healthy, and it's just a great source. It's a much better
And
alternative.
it's delicious and you feel satisfied. I mean, a lot of people are nutritionally deficient. That's why they're hangry. Hunger, and they may eat a full pizza, but they're still hangry because their cells are not getting the nutrients. And on the same lines, if you're eating meat, you should be consuming your meat with the bones. Like always try to make it like a stew. Get the bones as often as, especially the marrow bones and organ meats. And this is simply coming from how I was raised. Like in my home growing up in India, once a month we would eat lamb, kidney, and liver and spleen. This was at least once a month my mom would make it. And sounds gross, but once every 2 or 3 months, she would also make the lamb brain, which is pure fat. We would always get the whole chicken with the gizzards and with the liver and with the heart. I grew up eating all of these things, and these things not being available to today's generation. It's very, very sad for me. So of course, I forage all the local. Wisconsin is farmland, thank God. So there are plenty of really good local farmers here, and I'm able to get the full bird and things like that. So I make it a point to cook with all of that. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I love that you just touched on organ meats, right? This is something like when people are listening to this right now, they're like, oh, I don't know if I could ever do that, or I don't know why I would do that. Or some people from a bone health perspective, they're thinking about, well, I don't want to get too much vitamin A because I've read that it may not be good for bones. But you know what? That's consuming organ meats, getting that vitamin A, you still need it. You don't need to go the complete opposite direction and stop consuming foods that have vitamin A. You can still incorporate liver and things like that, liver, heart, those kinds of things. And they don't have to be consumed just as the single organ, right? You can get them. I mentioned Force of Nature is one brand, but they create this, it's almost like just ground meat that has that already into it, and you can't even really tell. So that can be one way to incorporate it that you would probably barely even know. But did you have other suggestions? You also mentioned ghee, which
yes.
I absolutely love, because even if you are somebody who's lactose intolerant or you are consuming a primarily, dairy-free diet, ghee is still something that you could potentially consume in your plan.
Yes, yeah, because ghee is pure fat. Ghee by definition means that there is no milk protein or milk sugar in it anymore. It's completely clarified out of it. You bring up a really, again, 2-3 generations ago here in the US, people ate like how I was raised. Like now, sadly, in India, the use of organ meat has come down even there, because everything is, it's been, I don't know what to say, but people are forgetting that you need to have wholesome nutrition comes from eating the whole animal from tip to tail, tip of the nose to tip of the tail. That's how even here people were consuming foods exactly like that. But I think it's the commercialization, industrialization, and it's a form of disconnection from nature. I think in some of these funny YouTube videos, I saw that some kid didn't know, where actually these animals come from. Like, that is the amount of disconnection from nature that is not healthy for any one of us. And regenerative farming is the way to go. But where the whole animal is consumed, and one way or the other, we all go back into this earth again. So, it's the recycling. The fruit that you're eating today, whatever fruit that is, it went through so many cycles of carbon, probably for eons, for millions of years. Nothing is new. Everything is recycled. My cells were probably somebody else's cells at one point in time.
Hey, it's Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Bone Coach Show. If you're finding it helpful, please leave a positive rating and review. Hit that like button, subscribe to the podcast or the channel. That lets us help more people and reach and serve more people. And it also lets us know that this is helpful to you on your journey to better health and stronger bones. And then also, right down in the show notes, you can actually find a link to my free Bone Healthy Recipes Guide. That's going to give you access to some amazing and delicious recipes to support your journey to stronger bones. And then also, we have a link to my free Stronger Bones Masterclass in the show notes too. And that is the 3-step process that has helped people in over 1,500 cities around the world get confident in their plan for stronger bones. Over 110,000 people have taken part in this, and it's been really, really helpful for them. And I want you to have free access to it too. So add your name and email right down there in the show notes, get access to that free Stronger Bones Masterclass, and let's get you confident in your Stronger Bones plan today.
Eat Pluck is a company that makes spices with ground organ meats.
Yeah.
So that's another way to, I think it's eatpluck.com. That's another way to incorporate. But I make a really good lamb liver and spleen curry. It's really good. So.
Well, I'm coming over for dinner.
Anytime, Kevin, anytime.
Well, this is really fascinating. And let's just touch on, I know you said you've got a book coming out, but I want to make sure we kind of touch on the last pieces that maybe you want to share about mental health, its connection to bone health. We already kind of touched on that, but any other pieces that you think are important to share with our audience?
So I think the big thing is that when it comes to bone health or mental health, the things that, and I've seen, the things that you talk about, really following some of the protocols that you have instituted for bone health will probably help with 60 to 70% of their mental health as well. So the body will heal with the protocols that you have come up for bone health. As a psychiatrist, as a mental health expert, I think the big piece, if somebody's working with you and with me, it'll be about fine-tuning some of those things specifically for brain health. But trust me, you'll be doing 60% of the work in terms of mental health as well. So all your clients, I know that they will experience improvement in energy, focus, concentration. The mood and regulation part, that requires a little bit, probably more psychiatric kind of an input. So that's one thing I want to tell all of your listeners, that they are healing not just their bones, you're healing the whole body, including the mind and the brain. And postmenopausal women, from the research that I'm doing right now, bioidentical hormones can be beneficial, not only for bone health, but also for mental health as well. So they should definitely, I used to be very against, I'm still against synthetic hormones. I mean, I don't recommend birth control pills. I don't recommend synthetic estrogen and progesterone. That's not the way to go. But I'm actually doing Dale Bredesen's course on reversing dementia. Fascinating. There is no illness that cannot be reversed. And even dementia, and I'm already implementing that I have 2 patients with dementia in my practice, and they're both responding really well. So there is no disease that does not respond to the right intervention. That's one big message I want to give your listeners. And as regards, what else did you, I think we covered.
We did. We covered quite a few things, but let's touch on just briefly your book.
Yes.
It's going to come out at some point in the future. So touch on Psychiatry 2.0 briefly. What's going to be included in that? So
Psychiatry 2.0, that's the title. And it basically documents my evolution as a holistic psychiatrist. And I've definitely touched upon the role of functional medicine. I've given a lot of insights about Ayurvedic medicine, and also about how people can, with those insights, and I've shared some of the dietary principles that we are going about, what blood tests that they can do for themselves. There's going to be a lot of actionable items in this book, and I'm writing it, and then I'll be looking for a publisher pretty soon. So that's where the thing is. But I'm very excited for this. I've also created an ebook, which is also that's going to be a free thing. I'm calling it the 7 Simple Ways to Heal Your Mind and Brain. So that also will be coming out on my website. So, lots of wonderful things happening at my end. Keeps me busy.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to make sure I link to resources in the show notes. So can you tell everybody where they can find you? Also, what's your website and anywhere else they can find you?
So the website is psychiatry2.com. It's psychiatry2.com. They can actually book a discovery call with me over there. My phone number is 262-955-6600. And there's another website, trinergyhealth.com, which is primarily the information website. Psychiatry 2 will have the ebook, and also it's the place where people can come in and book a discovery call with me. And yeah, I think that's
Wonderful. Well,
how they can.
this has been really informative for everybody. I personally have enjoyed this a lot, listening to you share your knowledge, your expertise, and I'm sure everybody else has as well. And for everybody listening, you can find all the resources, show notes, everything mentioned here today over at bonecoach.com. We're going to link to all those resources down in the show notes as well. I want to thank you again so much for your time. We'll see you in the next episode. Hey, it's Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. Hope you found that episode helpful and that you enjoyed it. Just one last reminder, if you haven't done so already, head over to bonecoach.com, sign up for your free 7-day osteoporosis kickstart. It's going to tell you everything you need to do to start getting on the path to improvement. Hope you found this helpful. I'm your Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. I'll see you soon.